Hey, this is Enaa in with you in the Fight Back. And I got asked a question last week, and I'd like to give a rather brief response to it. And it's what I think of political correctness. What do I think about problems of, say, intolerance? And I think that when we say that a lot of problems in our society, whether it's the United States or Britain, and it seems we always think, well, we have to be respectful of differences. We have to be willing to be tolerant. But I think too often this is the wrong approach. And I do think Slavoj Zizek hits the nail on the head on violence. And a lot of what I'm going to say will recap what he says, because I really believe it too. And why suddenly is the remedy for these problems of intolerance supposedly more tolerance? Why are we not looking? Because too often these differences in various groups are perceived almost as cultural, almost like it's ingrained in them. And we're really ignoring socio-economic political context. We're ignoring those various structures that lock this in. And these differences are seen almost as culturally ingrained. And there's really not much you can do about it. You just have to respect them. You have to treat that, as just a difference, that can be solved through tolerance. And you shouldn't offend people by criticizing them. Well, the thing is, why suddenly tolerance and why not emancipation? Why not armed struggle to solve those problems in a society? Why are they suddenly culturalized and almost made eternal? And we see this like cultures are clashing. There's a Samuel Huntington thesis in his The Clash of Civilizations. Well, instead of, we shouldn't be respecting certain differences. For instance, in China before 1949, it was very common for landlords to treat their tenants with utter malice. They treated them like slaves. Women were treated like cattle, and someone who was preaching the political correctness line would say, well, that's part of their culture. That's something you should respect, and we may not like it, but we should respect their beliefs. I say that's a load of crap. I say that you see various oppressions in all societies. Some societies will not respect women. Some treat their lower classes like garbage. But we should be standing with them when they fight back. These various We shouldn't be saying that these differences, these oppressions are eternal. Just as they were forged by people, perhaps unconsciously, they can be unforged. They can be broken. And and in a certain sense, if you look at the Middle East and how, say, neoconservatives viewed it, it's almost in a strange sense, this political correctness, because in most of the Middle East, the countries are autocratic dictatorships, and a neoconservative would say, well, that's how they are. That's part of their culture. They don't understand democracy. They don't understand freedom. We know that's not true. We've seen people in Tunisia, in Egypt, in Iran fighting and dying for freedom. And I'm not talking about the type of crap freedom that comes at the bayonet point of a U.S. soldier. I'm talking about these people rising up, taking their destiny into their own hands. Because these differences are not eternalized. Culture is not necessarily ingrained in us. We can change. We can emancipate ourselves. And I don't really think that if a society is utterly disrespectful of women's rights, I'm not going to accept that and say, I'm going to say, well, that's part of their culture. It's wrong. I'm not going to accept that. If in Nepal, until recently, they had a king who was viewed as a god, am I going to say, well, the Nepalese king, we should really respect that culture. That's part of what they have. No. Monarchy is a horrible concept. It's just ingrained differences that just because you're born into a certain class. So we should not, because in every society there are various particular oppressions, but in a sense, when they fight back, it's almost the same struggle. They're fighting the same enemy, oppression. And we should be standing with those rather than just say respecting their differences and holding back. because oftentimes the truth is brutal, and we should be willing to say the truth. Okay, this is again a short video, but this is Enaa, in with you in the Fight Back.